Man, Vince sounds like he's depressed as Maybe he is. I don't know.
His ability to use darkness is unbelievable.
Yeah, you got it.
This album of the year.
So far.
This album of the year.
Okay, it's grim. It's moody. It's Vince Staples.
Vince Staples' latest studio release marks the end of his major label run with Def Jam. As such, I thought it would be interesting to revisit his latest set of releases, examining the arc he's taken with his recent artistic output, and what he's saying about culture and society. You might already be aware of how highly I regard the work of Staples, with an erudition and level-headedness that I find uncommon in public discourse.
The way you speak now, like I can't even speak like you.
Vince has stepped outside of the box.
His matter-of-factness is refreshing, and uncommon is common sense in an industry that's based on illusion and distraction. His struggle with the contradiction of his work is telling of the larger cultural conversations that I think are worth having. For a more detailed look at my perspective on his earlier work, feel free to check out one of my first video essays around the subject of nihilism in his raps. His recent growth and experimentation, I feel, are an evolution of this nihilism, and document his struggles with purpose. So without further ado, let's dive right in. A decade since his debut studio album Summertime '06, Vince Staples finds himself at the end of his 10-year run with Def Jam and possibly his major label career.
One more on my contract, so I was like, let's just get it out the way, to be completely transparent.
Following the release of the final album in his contract, Dark Times. To greet us on the cover is a barely visible noose engulfed in darkness, recalling the black and white cover of Summertime '06. My early thoughts were this album would be self-referential and serve as a summation of his career in music.
You know, I don't like getting too much into it because I want people to listen to figure it themselves. But to me, just kind of assessing the different points of views of somebody who makes music. It's just about different points of view.
Retrospectively describing it as dark times, painting a slew of experiences that have occupied his mind since reaching this point in his life. In his Rolling Stone interview, he's quoted as saying, "I want to make sure that I'm retracing my steps, knowing where I came from in a certain regard." The entry to this album is the singular phrase,
"To live is to be like the man in the tree."
Reminiscent of the imagery of Buddha under a tree, the idea of Samsara is core to the album. Samsara can be defined as to flow, describing the process of consciousness, cycling through birth and rebirth in Buddhism. In the same way, the album is structured such that each track flows into the next. But most importantly, the ending track flows right back and loops perfectly with the initial track, marking the end as the beginning. Buddha represents the ever-present now. He embodies all things in the one and marks the end to multiplicity.
And so the wheel turns through birth, youth, and to this moment. It will turn on through old age, illness, and death. It will turn on through all your lives beyond, over and over again, in a never-ending and meaningless cycle. And you will learn nothing.
Similarly, the final track is an acquaintance of Staples, describing an experience she has with this feeling of oneness, that all things are as they should be, and we shouldn't fight against the tides of being. She instead encourages Staples to relent to the waves.
Like, oh, everything is exactly as it should be. And people are playing the game that they chose to play, and they is me, and we.
Here the connotation has an interesting double meaning. The Buddha is able to be because he has attained liberation from his self.
With trauma, bro.
Unlike Staples, who must continue the cycles of samsara, weighted by the trials and tribulations of his past, which occupy his thoughts on the future. Everything but the present moment is discussed in this album. And by referring to Buddha as
like the in the tree,
the imagery recalls lynching, and the album is peppered with references to the Jim Crow South. Like I mentioned, the symbol of the album is a noose, once used to lynch black Americans during times of heightened racism in the past, but also be symbolic of suicide, which Staples has ideated before, especially in his EP, Prima Donna.
What's the point of breathing? I think I mentioned it. I think I want to put this razor to my wrist again. I want to kill my neighbor cause the way he live again.
The ideation also is a stark message that in before times, the dangers to black Americans were mainly external in nature. However, this threat to their survival is now internal. Self-destruction is the most common threat to black life today.
I apologize if I might be the reason that your son never made it back home. He should have gave up the phone.
armed robberies at Mayfair Park.
And this symbol really encapsulates a lot of the work that Staples has inked into record to describe his early discography, that life is kill or be killed, survival, all that matters.
I'm ready to kill, so tested, all my weapons is real.
Staples has taken to a much more somber approach in his production and delivery, especially in the 3-album run that I call the Broken Heart Trilogy, comprised of Dark Times, Ramona Park Broke My Heart, and his self-titled Vince Staples. It's led to many fans of his earlier work criticizing this melancholic, monotone delivery over subdued production.
It feels like a regression from Ramona Park.
Foregoing the brazen sound of his more popular records like Fun, North North, or Back Back. Staples actually comments on this reaction himself, mentioning his fan base in one of the tracks.
Label trying to give me feedback, tell me bring the streets back. Fans said they want 2015 Vince. Drop big fish, cuz been weeks since.
Go back to that gangsta blah blah. Nigga, the homie just got popped in his face at the park being 15 years old. And you want me to go back to that? So I can play something that's gonna make a nigga want to get in the car.
This most recent album really brought home the point of this style of delivery for me. Beyond just embodying the lyrics more closely, it's just a lot harder to bop your head to the beat when he describes a life that he's living in this way.
Because it sounds great. But I mean, I don't want to sing along to that chorus.
It's as though he's speaking directly to the audience that prefers the bangers and energy of his earlier work, the contradiction of this music being tracks to commit the crimes with which he speaks of.
I was round that corner, still down, I'm a North soldier. G-slide, right down Sawyer. When we slide, you won't see morning.
Like, I hate him hard. For all of y'all.
Or at the very least, disregard the lived experience in preference for momentary distraction or amusement.
I don't need to provide amusement or enjoyment.
But I do know the people who listen to my music probably looking for thoughtfulness or creativity.
The music he's releasing now no longer allows us to ignore the lyrics, but mull them over in their entirety. If we're going to be voyeurs into the life of a gangbanging crip from Long Beach, California, the least we can do is make eye contact. The album is comprehensive of his experiences up to this point, from the sense of blue suede finding their way onto the production of Government Cheese.
Everybody gotta die. Only question is a hiller in the sky, yeah. Just don't forget to smile.
Of which the title could also be a nod to his XXL freshman freestyle.
We was government cheesing in them mug shots. Long as this niggas that fiendful with the plug got, we gon' make our money with greetings on the sidewalk.
His reflection on black culture and radio, where he ruminates over the perceived degradation of said culture.
AK Day would play the records that my sister would say was realer than whatever I listened to. When I got older, I realized it was true. The purity of when it's nothing to lose. Back when niggas had the rhythm and blues.
The very beginning, like on some 1980 to like 1984, 85, to early 2000s is like the most creative music I've heard personally. Because at the beginning, very beginning, they didn't know what the they was doing, and you just had to figure it out. In the early 2000s, like everybody making money already.
Or his confrontation of the living contradiction described in his lyrics.
Rappers make me sick to my stomach. We glorify who died and demonizing niggas who done it. I thought we was thugging. Niggas killed Jabari for nothing.
We all say we come from these places, but we don't want the values that come from these places. Mm-hmm. You got what I'm saying? We want to go be with them people.
I just want to feel like I'm enough, man. You know, I'm trying to be up in here like you, bro. With all these white folks, you know.
It's a very existential album, where earlier work from his discography were much more nihilistic and self-defeatist. The kill or be killed mentality has shifted to questioning his purpose. But as he continues to survive his experiences, he finds himself at a crossroad. Questions that remain unanswered, like what is the purpose to his life? Is it really to make a bunch of money and enjoy it with his loved ones? What does it mean when the people that he loves don't have his best interests at heart?
I got you. Don't got me. Get me.
Vince Staples is something that's very, very important going throughout the album. It's a very, very, very serious through line, and that is not giving people your money.
Despite surviving beyond the expectations of his origins, he continues to see the worst in humanity.
Majority of the time, the way we look at it, and I'm talking for the consensus, not everybody, the majority of people, just from what I've seen, is until you got some money, you ain't shit.
Raised as a have not had plots on a fortune, reduced lunch, had a nigga feeling less important.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to make you feel small, Mr. Staples.
Paranoid and distrustful, and unable to escape his cynicism in the shaky purpose that now moves him to continue living through these experiences. There comes a time in the album when an interlude of James Baldwin and Nikki Giovanni's famous exchange plays out, where Giovanni advocates for loved ones to lie to one another, to wear the same mask that they wear to strangers.
Of course you can lie to me, and you will. If you love me and you're going off with Maddie someplace, you're lying to me. Because what the hell do I care about the truth? I care if you're there. What Billie Holiday say, hush now, don't explain.
The politeness and civility of the workplace be brought home.
Be truthful with me when you lie to everybody else. You lied when you smiled at that cracker down the job, right? Lie to me, smile. Treat me the same way you would treat him.
Instead of getting the all from your loved ones, their anger, sadness, and vulnerability. And this is Vince's modus operandi.
It's just manners, bro. Like, I don't think about any of this shit ever at all.
How was your day?
It was cool.
Anything interesting happen?
Not really.
I feel you.
He'll never be vulnerable because his world doesn't allow for it.
And it's okay to be a bitch. You could be James Baldwin.
If I love you, I can't lie to you.
There's multiple instances in the album where he suffers for letting down his guard.
Stuck with silences and laughs, got me feeling like we on the path to something. Right before this woman stole my heart, I see a shadow by the door and hear a knock.
Giovanni's argument falls flat, however, when you take into consideration that a human being is more than their civility and politeness.
You grin at him all day long. You come home and I catch hell because I love you. I get least of you. I get the very minimum. And I'm saying, fake it with me.
To ask your loved ones to only show you the courtesy you give to strangers is also to lose out on their affection, love, and devotion, which the outside world is also devoid of. This is at least Vince's argument as a response to Giovanni. He highlights the ills that have followed the path down to the transaction-based culture that we not only accept, but dream of.
Transaction, cause your mama need a mansion. Get cracked, put them niggas in the casket. Can't forget the shit they did to yellow brother then. Shed so many tears.
Etouffee has been celebrated by listeners for his upbeat tempo and listenability, but a closer look at the lyrics highlight his commentary on how we exchange the artist's pain for our amusement.
I'm trying to show you I was brought into this world alone, but they don't care about me. They want another song, they want another show, they want to see me grow, just to break me down, soon as I break the mold.
This song points to his Louisiana roots, retracing the journey of his family's history from the Jim Crow South to present-day California.
Came a long way from the project buildings. That's where Granny went when she left Louisiana, trying to dodge Jim Crow. But you can't escape the master stained glass windows. Got my vision from the past. I'm probably finna go to hell. But
the track title is inspired by a common southern dish. Its meaning, when translated from the French, means to be smothered. Despite the glitz and lightness of the track, despite how Vince himself describes his lifestyle as light-footed, the naming is indicative of the reality beneath its melody. Staples is suffocating underneath it all. Shortly thereafter, in the track Nothing Matters, interpolating a song from his favorite album, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, is another inversion of expectations as he flips the meaning of Hill's track to highlight his struggles with trust, with the chorus asking,
why would you tell me that you love me when you don't? No time for arguing, I'm hanging up the phone. You made a promise, said you never do me wrong. Guess that doesn't matter.
This builds on the theme of radio and the loss of innocence and nostalgia to a bygone era of Motown-like love ballads. He recalls when love was genuinely rewarded in music and celebrated in black culture. Instead, promiscuity and infidelity have taken its place.
I think that nigga you be talking to be doing too much. You wipe your tears in front of the mirror, now you thinking about dust. Please don't.
Characteristics that have led to the self-destruction of the community and carry on with the messages of the album. In this way, the song could be a continuation of Hill's crooning ballad with D'Angelo, their relationship now soured after their promises have been broken. This is reflective of Staples' feeling of the state of black culture as a microcosm of American culture, and what we idolize as living the dream is in reality a nightmare filled with paranoia, which might explain why he uses Kanye's paranoia in the chorus.
You worry about the wrong things,
the wrong things. Why would you play the long game? It's not a shame. We all change.
This conversation extends also to the audience of his music again. Staples in the first verse describes how he's taken on transactional relationships as his inheritance of being a puppet who now exacts the same behavior of manipulation as a puppet master.
The way of control is puppet master got me shining his shoes, collecting quarters, didn't know I was about that life till his was over.
His audience wants to consume his traumatic experiences and gangster rap lyrics with bravado and energy that diminishes the feelings of guilt that he carries.
When I'm gone, bro, who gonna carry my casket, bro? You get what I'm saying? But niggas ain't thinking like that. You gotta live with yourself at the end of the day, but
he in turn is selling the experience for our entertainment.
What's the weirdest thing that you've ever seen on your Vivint home security system?
Nothing. I live in a nice place. That's going on.
But he was trying to ask me was violence happening on the premises of my house, and I'm not stupid enough for that. So that's the answer you got. If we want to really be real, but everybody gonna act like he didn't say you ain't never looked on your security's camera, seen some crazy shit. What are you insinuating?
At least now he's able to do it on his own terms.
I might have an idea.
Yeah, yes, you name it.
I want my loan.
That is ridiculous. Hey!
I used to pray to find a way to make a label advance, but nowadays 100 can't even get in my plans. Ain't even setting up no meeting till they meet the demands.
After capitalizing on our want for it earlier in his career.
George Lucas, I think it was Steven Spielberg said, I don't make movies for fans. I make things that I like, and hopefully a lot of people go see it, but I don't care about the people that. And you know, he got a lot of slack for saying that, but I kind of understand that. I use music to kind of figure myself out and figure life out, and you know, to try to put things in there I care about.
The album is rife with contradiction. He accepts the reality that his past and current purpose will end up destroying him, yet he repeatedly proclaims only the heavens can judge. Whichever direction they point him, he's made peace with.
I understand I'm just a grain of sand and life is a beach. Only heaven knows whichever way I blow in the breeze. I'll be a fool to think it's left up to me.
His history with religion throughout his career takes an interesting turn in this latest album. Wrestling more with faith than we've seen him do before, a remorseful acceptance rather than the pointed criticism.
Rich men in Porsches, broke moms on bus stops, living with emotion, look what the love got. Sitting in the church, giving her last dollar, prayer wasn't the answer, they was answered with nada. See my heavenly father, know better.
His prior resigned atheism has now been taken over by a sort of turmoil theism.
You can't tell me no different, I still can hear him screaming. He was barely a teen, and Jesus couldn't save him, so I barely believed.
Yet at the same time indulges his lower self, making peace with finding his heaven on earth.
Probably finna go to hell, but it don't matter, seeing heaven on earth. Nah, I could've been a bone shirt.
Despite whatever consequences await his rejection of a higher purpose or calling. Heaven in this album can also be a metaphor for the industry, where in Freeman, for example, a fan of his says that she dreams of him winning a Grammy to validate his art.
Wanna see me on the Grammy stage holding them trophies. I responded as above, so below me, she said explain. It's the power of the human brain, we trapped in our dreams.
In answer to what is glorified in art not being within his control, there's a nefarious undertone here, potentially pointing to the puppeteer of the art and lifestyle being this demonic entity.
Touched by an angel alone, made me special.
His track Shame on the Devil begins with him calling for God to provide him true love and protection, to fill the void in his heart, despite the things he's done and the choices he continues to make, which is an interesting turn when considering to shame the devil is to speak the truth, and Vince's contradictions point to him lying to himself, thus taking off his halo at the end of the video. It begs the question, who's the devil in this scenario, and who is Vince actually praying to?
You should try walking light with 2 left feet. Devil's dance, praying hands can't protect me. God.
My mama wasn't with that. That's demonic in my household. Yeah.
Same.
You ain't wearing no devil shit, nigga.
Gotta keep this shit ignorant. Prayer. It's not what the devil intended. It's money outside, go and get it. Make a ticket.
These misgivings are again highlighted in the second verse of Radio. He speaks about a falling out he's had with a church girl who doesn't listen to rap because of its lyrics. He mentions that these lyrics don't mean anything to him, that they're just words. It's not until she cuts ties with him that he understands their power. He reflects on how he can't help but sabotage himself since he has this need to test the people around him, to shake it up like a Polaroid, and see if love is actually there.
Tall tales I know all too well, cause every moment that we share felt like a Polaroid. Sometimes you gotta shake it up to see what's really there. Is it in the air?
Another hard-hitting storytelling track that reveals Staples' mind state is Justin. This record is one single verse and chorus, and yet he's able to tell a multi-layered tale that encompasses his relationship to the world. The story begins when he meets a Qatari woman at a restaurant. Quickly he finds out that her dreams of fame are dashed, having moved to LA to become a singer and star, and settling for teaching once those ambitions have dried up.
I made enough to know I never make enough for my soul. I turned my back on my friends, I turned my back on my home. I left the streets where I've grown to chase the yellow brick road.
Her visa is up in a few months and she'll go back to Qatar if it expires. The commentary of the earlier tracks that describe how he's living the life that she dreams of fame and wealth.
Used to picture me rolling vividly. Now everything I dream is everything you see.
A dream that's left him empty underlies their conversation.
I heard they paved it with gold. I turned around and seen they pick. on it, just like me, but that's alright because my soul burning. Please set me free. I hope to see you in another lifetime. Mine's just not for me. Can't you see?
They hit it off talking about their lives. He offhandedly describes his work in music as
deeper conversations under surface level thoughts.
There's a serious dialogue that he wants to have with his listeners, but is limited by song structure and melody. She ends up asking for a ride home, having had too much to drink, possibly nodding to the fact that Qatar does not allow public drinking, so she's enjoying the freedoms of the States. Interestingly, another point of departure Staple adds is that he doesn't drink, having grown in an environment where his father was addicted to drugs.
Made me promise that this would never touch my hands, and it never did. Said it make me be a better man, smoking in the crib, hiding dip inside of soda cans, black bandana on his arm, needle in his hand.
He agrees to take her home, where they continue their conversation. He thinks they're clicking until a knock on the door abruptly ends whatever feelings were manifesting, describing her eyes becoming bloodshot.
This woman stole my heart, I see a shadow by the door and hear her nod. Eyes bloodshot like she has seen a ghost or something.
He reaches for his gun in the case that things turn south. She opens the door and introduces her little cousin, Justin.
Reach in my pocket, get the clutch, and she like, hold up, I'm coming. If it get tricky, then I'm busting. She said, baby, meet my little cousin, Justin.
It's ambiguous whether or not Justin is Vince in this case, or Justin is the man knocking the door. It leans toward the former. The context here being that she doesn't want to spoil a potential marriage that could extend her visa, in which case the man she's currently with is being used for ulterior purposes. Vince may have escaped the same fate, with her want for fame and attention being expedited by an industry insider. The fact that Justin is ambiguous could also point to how both are being played.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
There is no Justin, but in that sense, they're both Justin to her. Two sides of the same coin, where the reward for his possible vulnerability is seeing the ugly.
I know some that'll pull up to give me some before they come give me a hug. Disgusting, but then only the heavens can judge.
Vince alludes to this scenario in Ramona Park Broke My Heart during his verse in Free the Homies.
I done seen it all, bloodshot eyes broke my heart, then it said that I'm still outside.
But Staples doesn't let himself off the hook either. Ready to kill on a moment's notice, the resurfacing of his killer be killed mentality is active, even in his most vulnerable moments, despite the fact that he lies to himself, implying that he was beginning to open up in the verse.
Like I was gonna be in a relationship, I'm a fucking psycho.
This album is just shy of 40 minutes, however it's a lot to unpack in a half hour. It's dense, complicated, and self-effacing. A real challenging listen. Staples has not only proven his mastery of his subject matter and delivery, but also his growth as a person. In the album, there are some very telling reflections on how his decade-long journey through fame, status, and wealth have affected his mindset and relationship to the world. The forever empty can only be actively ignored at best, at least if he continues to drown himself in worldly distraction. Once the distractions are gone, however, he's left to the ruminations of his past and the understanding that he hasn't made his peace yet, at least in full, reminding those who seek this lifestyle out that they'll have to give themselves up to the monster that is the music industry.
I'd like to think that had I not had to work 3 jobs, 2 jobs, I could have spent a little more time and maybe he would not have me. I'm a monster.
If they decide to take the same path, his advice in Little Homies quickly becomes more of a warning than an anthem. Follow him at your own peril if you dare, and prepare to face the same emptiness that continues to haunt his thoughts.
Like household names, you know, we say the Drakes, we say the Jay-Z's, we could say Vince Staples. I think.
And then what?
And then what? You can continue to get more out of it.
More out of what?